Hello 大家好 and apa khabar semua? As usual, my name is Kelvin and we're here for another chunky lineup of gaming news all for you. Starting with Among Us latest update, we have a new James Bond's game that is coming by IO Interactive. We have Cyberpunk's update and so much more for you guys on this week lineup itself. So don't go anywhere, stay tuned, strap in, clean your Doritos hands, and let's get the show to light speed. Starting with the first news for you guys, we have IO Interactive with their latest game in development. So there has been rumors coming out that a new James Bond game is coming, but we don't know by whom or whoever is developing it. Now we know it's by IO Interactive. And for those of you who are uncultured, IO Interactive has been the main creator for the Hitman series. So you have your Hitman 1, Hitman 2, Hitman 3, you get the gist of it, right? So we don't know much about the upcoming James Bond game, but there's a few points that we know, starting with it's again by the developers behind the Hitman series. The game will be centered around James Bond origin story earning his 00 status, contrary to the firm Casino Royale, and the game will not follow the movie universe of 007. So there's not much news about the game itself. We don't know how it looked like. We just had a very short trailer of your typical James Bond cinematic soundtrack. You saw the bullet, whatever it is, you know, the James Bond thing, and again, no gameplay whatsoever. But I personally hope that it will be somewhat along the lines of the Hitman series that we know of. You're going to play as an espionage spy, going through different missions, trying to find the bad guy, you know, the usual story, right? I don't have to explain that to you. So that's that. Hakan Abrak, I might botch his name there, so I'm sorry in advance. The CEO of IO Interactive stated this, and I quote, "It's true that once in a while the stars do align in our industry. Creating an original Bond game is a monumental undertaking, and I truly believe that IO Interactive, working closely with our creative partners, can deliver something extremely special for our players and communities. Our passionate team is excited to unleash their creativity into the iconic James Bond universe and craft the most ambitious game in the history of our studio." Moving on to the next news, we have Among Us. Remember that game? Well, I kind of forgot about it because it's been a while since I played Among Us with like Phasmophobia and Apex coming out. But Among Us recently came out with not just their latest map, they also have their official Twitter account at Among Us Games. And their first tweet that came out was a snippet screenshot of the latest map, that what I assume to be a spaceship. And on the screenshot itself, as you can see here, it's basically a picture of a spaceship, a bridge of a spaceship, a cockpit of a spaceship, but that's all the news we have with the latest map that they have. And I quote from this tweet, "Hungry for more? Keep an eye out at the Game Awards on December 10. It's getting real suspicious over there." Again, we don't know much about the new map, but at least they are getting proper updates and they have a proper Twitter account. Well, if you were tuning in last week, we did talk about the Capcom being hacked, right? We mentioned a lot of stupid things like who signs up for a Capcom account, why would you have a Capcom account in the first place? But they have came out and said that no personal details have been leaked, but a lot of games out there has been leaked. So we basically have a leaked roadmap of what Capcom has or will be planning for the next 3 years, starting with Resident Evil Village, some untitled game called Resident Evil Outrage, Resident Evil Hank, and other games such as Monster Hunter Rise, Street Fighter, Dragon's Dogma, and also Onimusha. When was the last time you heard the game Onimusha? My personal experience was I don't know, when I was in high school, when the PlayStation 2 was still a thing. So the leak itself didn't leak any important information so far. The only thing that what's the group called? Egregor? So Egregor has just leaked out the roadmap for all the games that will be releasing in the future, right? We have games that are coming out in 2024, 2022, 2023, and so on and so forth. So please tell me if you're a fan of Onimusha, because I'm a huge fan of Onimusha. Steam is rolling up a new support for the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. Well, if you don't know about the DualSense controller, it's the only thing that has been being hyped about by every game journalist and reviewers out there because of the adaptive trigger, the gyro, and everything else that comes with the really amazing next-gen package. So what Valve is doing is they're basically giving out a Steam patch where you can connect your PlayStation 5 controller to your PC and playing games with all this amazing features that comes with the PlayStation 5's controller. But the biggest thing that are not included into the patch is basically the adaptive trigger from the PlayStation 5 controller. And these are what comes with the update itself. They have added support for LED, trackpad, rumble, and gyro functionality. They are also adding a directional swipe mode for the use of the trackpad and gyro. Adaptive trigger is not supported yet, but Valve claims that it will be supported in the near future. So, I don't know about you, but with this additional support, I would actually go out and get the PlayStation 5 just for my PC itself, because I really want to know what the hype is about. I really want to feel the PlayStation 5. I really want to see the micro details on the PlayStation 5 itself, and I can tell you that I'm super excited for it. I don't know about you guys, so tell me in the comments below. And moving on to the second last segment of the news, I want to talk about the game that has been anticipated so much for the past 7 years, which is Cyberpunk 2077. So if you don't already know, Cyberpunk 2077 actually came out with the official gameplay of what we could expect, and we saw Johnny Silverhand, we saw the gameplay itself, we saw how beautiful Night City is, and most importantly, we get to see how the game functions on both consoles, such as the Xbox. Only the Xbox. And I have to say, for a console game, it's bloody gorgeous. So IGN journalist Tom Marks has the luxury of playing and testing the game for 16 hours straight, and these are the highlights that he mentioned, right? He said that Cyberpunk 2077 is a slow-paced RPG game. It took him 6 hours just to get from original start to the title screen itself. That's 6 hours of prologue. He also mentioned that the RPG and combat feels a little bit off, but that's acceptable. I'll explain it in a bit, so just bear with me. And lastly, and there was a question that popped up asking him, does the game live up to its hype? And he answered yes and no. And I quote, yes, because it's really enjoyable, and no, because it has some rough edges. So, as a CDPR fan for the longest time, I played basically The Witcher 1, Witcher 2, Witcher 3, and I can say that this is not a game that you can compare it to like Saint Rose or like GTA 5. It's a slow-paced game. Think of Red Dead Redemption, for example. For you to go from place 1 to place B, you actually have to get on a horse and really explore and venture out to wherever you're trying to go, right? So from the gameplay itself, what I felt like, it's basically a very slow, non-linear kind of gameplay. You have to explore the game as how the designer created to be. And when it comes to rough edges of the game, you have to understand that this is an open world game. You take Fallout, for example, you take The Witcher, for example, even GTA, for example, you do see a lot of bugs and a lot of UI issues at the start of the game, but eventually, knowing what CDPR does is they will just patch all these problems, so you don't have to worry about it. It's understandable. Please be a lot more forgiving. I know the game has been teased out for the past 7 years, but again, it's a very interesting title. It's a very ambitious game, and just cut them some slack, because it's a game that everyone is looking forward to at the entirety of 2020. A little fun highlight from the video itself, he did mention that he was playing this one mission, and for the entirety of the mission, he did not fire one single bullet. And he also mentioned that he could imagine playing the same mission by going in guns blazing, grenade throwing, bazooka, this and that. And what I love about this point is how Cyberpunk actually allows you to create V as how you picture V to be, and play all these missions the way you like it. Because personally, I'm more of a 50-50 on stealth and action. I like to mix them up, but some missions are actually just purely enjoyable if you play it stealth, and that you reap that achievement for just, dude, I actually played through the whole campaign without firing a single bullet. Or you can be like, hey bro, I went in guns blazing, I killed everyone with like 1 gun or 5 guns or 10 guns. You know, it's completely up to you, and I think that that's a really underrated kind of gameplay or style. So tell me what you think, because I really want to know what your gameplay is, because personally I like to mix things up. Sometimes I like to go stealth, sometimes it's more, well, enjoyable if you just go in guns blazing. So tell me, comments below. And last but not least, we have the Game Awards of 2020. Well, there are a lot of segments out there, but I'm just going to highlight the GOTY, or Game of the Year segment, which includes 6 games that are nominated, and in no particular order, these 6 games are Animal Crossing, New Horizon, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and Last of Us Part 2. Personally, I'm just glad to see Hades on the list because this game is so underrated, and a lot of people are still on the fence about like 50-50. Should I play this game? Should I not play this game? My takeaway, if you don't try Hades, at least watch some gameplays about it. See how beautiful the game is. See how beautiful the narrative is. See how beautiful the combat is. Because when I first played the game, it took me about a week to clear just the last boss. I won't spoil anything for you guys. But altogether, in the week's time, in just 1 week's time, I clocked in about 50 hours in that game, and it's just unlimited possibilities and replayabilities with the weapons that is included. But I'm not gonna dive into that, but this is just the weekly game updates and I don't want to drag your time on it. So tell me what the game of the year is, because on the team itself, me personally, I'm happy to see Hades on the list. We talked about this on the podcast earlier. Afik wants to see Valorant, Jeff wants to see Sea of Thieves, and Joel behind the camera, he wants to see Genshin Impact being nominated or their personal game of the year. So going back to you, what game do you want to see as your game of the year? Tell me in the comments below. And that's all the time we have. Yeah, it's a quick 10 minutes. It's a quickie game news updates. I tell you the news, don't kill me, I'm just a messenger. So now you tell me what you like to hear from us next. Just to wrap things up, we talked about James Bond and how IO is creating a whole new IP for it. What you think about the latest Among Us and what you want to see more in Among Us. Have you checked out the system requirements for Cyberpunk 2077? Because it's quite a hefty requirement. And again, what is your game of the year? Tell me all in the comments below, and that's all the time we have for you guys. I have been Kelvin, and behind the camera is Joe. Joe, you want to say hi?
Hello there.
And we have been the Epic Arcade Boys, so I'll see you on the next one.